Hello adventurer! Welcome to one of the oldest surviving cultural sites in Singapore, the Kampong Glam. This place used to be the seat of royalty, the center of commerce, and the heart of Muslim pilgrimage. I'm Tommy, your local Singaporean, and in this video, I'll be taking you to uncover the hidden gems underneath the streets of Kampong Glam. Let's begin. Our adventure begins at the beach road. But where's the beach? Even if you look into the map, we are actually in the middle of the city. Well, you're looking at the wrong map. If you go back to the first map of Singapore in the 1840s, this used to be the beach, and that is the shoreline. Since then, the immediate shoreline has been reclaimed to make more space for development. In fact, not just the beach, this was also a trading port. Even before Singapore became a British port in 1819, these shores were already frequented by the Arab and Bugis traders who ply their trade at Kampong Glam. Further inland is where they used to live. Let's take a closer look. As a busy maritime trading port, there was a constant need for metalworks in Kampong Glam. All those ships and tools need to be built, repaired, and replaced. This street right here, the Sultan Gate, was where most of the blacksmiths and metal foundries were located. Stone masonry was also a big industry here, producing stone mills, grindstones, and tombstones, like this one. Today, most of this has moved out, replaced by restaurants and cafes. By the way, please pardon the mess around here. Last week, they just had the Ramadan Bazaar, so I think they're still in the process of cleaning things up. Now, about the name Kampong Glam, actually, I used to think that it was named after how glamorous it is. But turns out, it's actually named after these trees. These are the galam trees, which used to grow in abundance in this region. So, together with the word Kampong, Kampong Glam literally means the village with lots of galam trees. And these trees were the backbones of maritime trade in Kampong Glam. Its timbers were used to build and upkeep the trade ships who had to go on long voyages on the rough seas on months on end. And its papery bark were used to craft awnings and sails. In fact, the galam trees were also known as the paper bark tree. And the use of the bark doesn't end there. It also has a very special property that swells when it's wet. Hence, it was widely used as caulking to make ships watertight. I mean, shiver me timbers. Who doesn't love a watertight boat, eh? On top of that, the leaves of the galam trees are rich in essential oils that are essential to Kampong Glam's history as a center for Hajj pilgrimage. The Hajj is a mandatory pilgrimage for the followers of Islam. Muslims from all over the region used to visit Kampong Glam before setting off on their weeks-long journey to Mecca by sea. The ointment, made of the extract of the galam tree, commonly known as the minyak kayu putih, was the essential relief for seasickness on this long journey. The name itself literally means the oil from the white wood, referring to the white appearance of the galam tree. Interestingly, the Latin name of the galam tree is the literal sound of the common name, Melaleuca kayu putih, but they are more often spelled and pronounced as the kayu put. Now, let's go visit the palace down the road. Just watch out for the foul beast in the area. So actually, I wasn't entirely wrong about Kampong Glam being glamorous, because historically, this has been the seat of the Malay royalty. Since 1822, this area has been designated as the personal residence of Sultan Hussein Shah, who signed the treaty with the British to allow them to operate a trading port here in Singapore. Right behind us here was his personal residence. But the original istana didn't look like this. The concrete structure that we see today was commissioned by Sultan Ali, which is the son of Sultan Hussein, back in the 1890s. So, where are the sultans now? Well, in the 1900s, there was a dispute in the royal family on the ownership of the estate. Ultimately, the court ruled that the land belonged to the state. However, the royal family was allowed to continue living on the premise and was given annual cash allowance. Then come the year 1999, when the government further compensated the living descendants of Sultan Hussein to move out of the compound, providing $350,000 for the next 30 years to help the living descendants resettle into normal lives. So, up till today, 2026, the government is still actually paying these annuities. And you might even have met the royal family yourself, because they have since integrated into normal lives, some taking common jobs like taxi drivers and restaurant operators. Since the 2005, the Istana Kampong Glam has been converted into a Malay Heritage Centre to continue telling the long history of the Malay community in Singapore. However, at the moment, they are closed for renovation, slated to reopen later in April 2026. Right beside the Istana Kampong Glam was once the home of a very famous inventor, Haji Yusof, who invented the first ever Haj belt that's still popular even today. Welcome to the Gudang Kuning, also known as the Yellow Mansion. So, what did Haji Yusof invent exactly? Well, let's talk about the Hajj. One of the requirements for pilgrims performing the Hajj was that they have to enter the state of Ihram, which requires them to only wear 2 pieces of white unstitched clothing, which pretty much is just 2 towels wrapped around the body. Having gone on a Hajj himself, Haji Yusof realized, hold up, where are we gonna put our personal belongings during the Hajj? There's no pockets. Where to put my phone, my money, my travel documents? Okay, maybe not phone. Back then they didn't have phones. So that's when he invented the Tali Pinggang Haji, which is actually just a belt with a built-in pouch, perfect to store your personal belongings. His belt was so successful that his name became a trademark and the belt was exported all around Southeast Asia. And the same style is being used till today. About the Gedung Kuning itself, similarly, it also bears a European influence in its Palladian style architecture. But why yellow color, you might ask? Well, yellow was the color associated with Malay royalty. Before Haji Yusof owned this house, this was once the house of the grandson of Sultan Hussein. Today, it's a halal buffet restaurant serving Singaporean, Indonesian and Malay dishes, apparently popular for weddings and hosting dignitaries. The Kampong Glam is also very well known for its beautiful shophouses. The ones right ahead with flamboyant ornamentations, elaborate bas-relief and stuccos were built between the 1900s to the 1940s. This used to be owned by the merchants who live and work here. The upper floors are used as residentials for them and their family, while the ground floor is used as a warehouse or shopfront. Hence the name shophouses. They look deceptively small, around 3 to 4 meters per unit. But it's actually 3 to 4 times in depth. This building layout was believed to be the result of property taxes. Back then, buildings were taxed based on how much width they are touching the road. Hence, people would maximize the frontage as much as possible when building these shophouses. The special feature of our shophouses are these sheltered frontages we call the 5-foot way. This was an early practical solution to allow movements between buildings no matter the weather. You see, it's essentially a sheltered walkway. Back in the days, people also used this public space to open shop to sell food, goods and services. Today, most of these beautiful shophouses has retained their facade but been converted into retail shops or restaurants. There's one that I've been wanting to try but have yet to. How about we do that today? Ta-da! Beef rendang from the Bumbu restaurant. Imagine beef slow cooked in fragrant spices until gloriously tender. That's beef rendang for you. Without further ado, let's give it a try. It's best eaten with plain rice. The tender beef goes together with the delicious sauce. Now, let me enjoy my lunch break before we continue with Kampong Glam. By the way, this is my first time doing such a deep dive on one of Singapore's heritage districts. So please leave a like on this video if you like this format and want to see more. Also, you can actually join me in person to explore Singapore's hidden gems. Just check out my private tours over here. This is the perfect way to explore Singapore beyond her touristy spots. For now, let's get back to Kampong Glam. Now we are at the heart of Kampong Glam, the Plethora Street. However, back in the days, this used to be called the Kampong Kaji, as Singapore grew into an important port in the region with direct links to Arab, alongside Kampong Glam being the Malay-Arab quarter. Naturally, it became the regional hub for Hajj. When the Dutch imposed restrictions on Hajj from Indonesia, Singapore became an even more important hub for pilgrims who want to bypass that restriction. At its peak in the late 1800s, Kampong Glam was welcoming 10,000 pilgrims annually, fueling a huge economy in the region. These shophouses on my left and right were where the pilgrims used to stay before they embark on their journey to Hajj. Anyway, do you notice the difference between the shophouses on the right and the shophouses on the left? Well, those on the right are built way earlier in the 1800s. They have simple design with 1 or 2 rectangular windows on the upper floor. On the other hand, the shophouses on the left are built later in the early 1900s. See, they are distinctly different with way more ornamentation. On top of accommodations, this Plethora Street would also have been alive with eateries, shops and everything that a pilgrim would need before his journey. In fact, there's a shop here that still sells Hajj supplies. Ta-da! Here's your relief to seasickness, the minyak kayu putih. Smells just like the real deal. Back in Indo, when I have stomach aches, my mother also used to rub my stomach with this. And haha! A rattan ball called sepak takraw, maybe to kill some time while on the long journey. But the most interesting pilgrim products that I found is this natural toothbrush called the miswak. It literally translates to tooth cleaning stick. This was the Oral-B of the day, what pilgrims used to maintain good oral hygiene during the Hajj. It's made of the bark of the Salvadora persica tree. So, how to use it? Let me show you. Okay, how do I open this? Alright, here we go. So, gently chew on one end until it peels, revealing a brushy end. Then, just brush. No toothbrush needed because these are known to naturally contain detergents on its own, including fluoride. It's also quite economical because once you're done with the top, right, you want a new brush, just cut off the end, then you have a brand new miswak. Today, you'll also find many Middle Eastern restaurants here, reflecting the deep Arabic influence in this street. Oh hi, yes, that's me.
Oh, I'm in Singapore because of you.
Oh, welcome to Singapore. Hi. And now, the crown jewel of Kampong Glam, the grand, iconic Sultan Mosque. This has been the prominent landmark here for the past 100 years. But its history actually goes way back another 100 years. In 1823, Sultan Hussein wanted a mosque near his residence. Hence, Raffles actually provided the funding required to build one. Originally, it was just a single-story building with multi-tiered roof built in the traditional Malay bombong style. But towards the 1900s, it fell into disrepair. That's when the newer, bigger, and the current Sultan Mosque was built in 1932. At the current size, it's said to be big enough for 5,000 worshippers. And as you can see, it's built in an entirely different style. Legend has it that the Sultan Mosque is heavily inspired by the Haj Mahal. Just take a look. Do you see the similarities? First, the main dome flanked by 2 smaller domes, then the minaret that's topped by this semi-spherical top called the Chatris. One very interesting feature that I couldn't explain is the veranda. I thought maybe it's for the Sultan or the Imam to be in an elevated position to address the crowd, but I couldn't find any sources that make any mention of this veranda. The most heartwarming thing about the Sultan Mosque is how inclusive it is for the whole community. This new building was actually entirely funded by the local Muslim community. But for those who couldn't afford to give money, they actually donated soy sauce glass bottles, which were incorporated into the main mosque building. You see, under the dome, there's a black band. That's where the glass bottles are. I thought it's just so cool that the contributions of the entire community manifested into this physical, iconic beauty. Also, I didn't know about this, but do you notice the crescent moon and stars that's commonly found on mosques? There is one right here and another one right there. I thought that these were the original symbols of Islam, but turns out these are unofficial symbols. Historically, these are the symbols of the Ottoman Empire, which was a big Islamic empire. Even after the Ottomans declined, these symbols continued to be used and spread, eventually becoming the unofficial symbol of Islam that we know and recognize today. You're actually welcome to visit the interior of the Sultan Mosque daily, except Fridays, between these timings. I will let you have a peek. The interior of the mosque is just as grand, but they don't allow any video taking. Now, facing Sultan Mosque, towards the left is the street with one of my favorite street mural. Ta-da! The Kampong Glamorous at Muscat Street. This huge mural tells the story of the past 200 years of Kampong Glam. First, as a trading port for the Arab and Bugis traders, then you can actually see that is the old Sultan Mosque one single tier building with multi-tiered roof, and right beside it is the old Istana Kampong Glam. On the right-hand corner is a soulful depiction of what life was like back in the days. The laundry that the makcik is doing actually bears the motifs of the early settlers who came to Kampong Glam from Java, Kalimantan, and Sulawesi. On the ground level is the depiction of trades of the olden days. And check it out, guess what this guy is doing? This is called the teh tarik. At first, you might think this is for show, but this is actually what they do with the milk tea. After brewing it, they will pull it into another cup to cool it down and at the same time make it frothier, improves the texture. You guys should give it a try. Check it out, this is the transformation of Kampong Glam. See this? That's the Istana and the Masjid Sultan in their original form. And the beach road, still pretty close to the beach, with trading ships in the background. Then ta-da! This is the modern day Kampong Glam. You can see everything is renovated now. And where's the beach? No more beach. That's the Benjamin Sheares Bridge and the Singapore Flyer in the background. And no more ships. It makes this corner so alive. I love it. So the name Muscat Street is actually an homage to Muscat, which is the capital of Oman. These beautiful granite arches here with ornate carvings are actually built in collaboration between the Singapore and Omani government in 2012 to tell the story of the ancient maritime trade between the two countries. The most interesting story here is about a ship called the Jewel of Muscat. Back in 1998, a rare shipwreck was discovered off the shore of Belitung, southeast from here. It was identified to be a 9th century Arabic trading ship. That discovery later inspired the Omani government to actually reconstruct the ship, sail it all the way to Singapore, and gift it to us to commemorate the ancient maritime links between Arab and Southeast Asia. You can actually visit the ship today if you go to the Oceanarium at Sentosa. Past the Oman Arch is the Orchard Road of Kampong Glam, the Arab Street. Even today, this street is still very well known for the specialty products that defined it for generations, mainly textiles, carpets, and perfumes. One of the oldest perfume shops is right here, the Al Junid Brothers, who's been in business since the 1938. Wow, just look at their array of perfumes. It smells good. The most distinctive feature about Arabic perfume, called attar, is that it's often designed as a perfume oil rather than an alcohol spray. This is partly because alcohol is forbidden in Islamic practice. It is also believed that the oil-based scent lasts longer on your skin. And the oldest surviving clothing shop, the Toko Al Junid. I think the owners are brothers. They are still selling textile and traditional Malay clothing. Okay, I know this video is getting really long, but there's one more street that I want to show you, the Haji Lane. Back then, this place also used to serve as accommodations for pilgrims before their Hajj, hence the name Haji Lane. However, today, this street has turned into a very vibrant, very colorful space where you can find many boutique shops and cafes. In that very colorful side is where you find the eateries. And over here is where you'll find many surprises in the boutique shops. This street really is full of surprise. I always find something new whenever I'm here. Look, a Nyonya themed boutique shop. Looks interesting. Hey, I know this chicken. Hey, it's a satay magnet. And congratulations! You probably know more about Kampong Glam than 90% of the locals. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you want to discover more hidden gems in Singapore, watch this next video. I'll see you there.